Hey guys, it's me again. I hope the lesson's going okay. Hopefully you checked out my other video for question number 2 on page 363. So this one's going to be question number 27 on page 364. When you're working on this problem, okay, the things stay the same. Remember that we're trying to figure out if that number is less than 1, equal to or greater than 1, or equal to 1. Remember, anything that's equal to 1, okay, is always going to be equal. Anything that's less than 1 is going to be less, and any number greater than 1 is always going to be greater. So let's go ahead, and then I'm going to do these 4, and I'm going to give you a bonus one to talk about since we haven't talked about it yet. And then that'll conclude the video. So the first one is 4 times 4.5. Now remember, we want to try to figure out if we multiply 4 times 4.5, is my answer going to be less than 4.5, greater than 4.5, or equal to? So I want to focus on the number that's not 4.5, and in this case, it's the 4, okay? And we know that 4 is greater than 1. So anytime we know that a number is automatically greater than 1, right, that's going to go on the greater than 4.5 side, right? Because if I multiply 1 times 4.5, I'm going to get 4.5. If I multiply 4 times 4.5, think about 4 times 4 is 16, and that's a lot bigger than 4.5. So this one is going to go on this side. Okay, so this one's done. Okay, the next one on the bottom is 4.5 times 3/4. Okay, well, remember, I'm focusing on the number that's not 3, or that's not 4.5, and that's 3/4. And now I think about 3/4. Okay, if we think about our wholes, right? If I'm drawing a fraction, that's 3/4, right? So that's not even a whole, so that's less than a whole. So when it's less than a whole, my product is going to be less than 4.5. So then this one would go over here. And if you need to draw that little picture like I did on the side, just to make sure that you're right, and then do that. Okay, the next one is 1 and 1/12 times 4 and 1/2. Okay, once again, I'm going to focus on the number that's not 4.5. Okay, and 1 and 1/12. Okay, well, 1 is 1, and 1/12 would make it bigger than 1. So if this is bigger than 1, right, then this one's going to go over here. And remember, like we talked about in the other video, it doesn't matter whether the 4.5 is first or second. You solve it regardless, right? Okay, and then the last one, I'm going to circle the number again that's not 4.5. And like I said before, remember, you can always draw a picture. So there's my fifths. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 fifths. And that 4 fifths is less than 1 whole. So then so my product is going to be less than 4.5. So my answer is going to go over here. Okay. Now I'm going to talk to you about that bonus one. Okay. Over here. Okay. And you're going to come across this when you get to the buddy practice tomorrow. And I just want you to make sure that you're aware of it when you get to it. So if I do a fraction, let's say 6/6 times 4.5, and I want to know what side that's on, or I just want to solve it, right? Okay, so remember, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to focus on the one that's not the 4.5, or whatever the number is in your problem. Okay, now if I look at 6/6, if I draw a picture of 6/6, right, that's equal to 1 whole, right? That equals 1. So if I put 1 times 4 and 1/2, that's going to give me 4.5. So if I were having to put this on either side, this one would go on neither the less than or the greater than sign. If you had this question, there's a few problems on page 363 that are like this, where it's equal to. This will give you a good example of that problem. Okay. Any questions that you have, or anything that you're having a hard time with, remember, you can message me on Remind 101, or I am going to check the Edsby messengers, but try to use the Remind 101 if you can. And I also can use the realize Messenger too, but to make it easy, just try to use the Remind 101 app. Okay? All right. Hope all is well. Be safe.